Well, good evening. I'm Alan Jackson, and welcome back to Nashville. 3 years and several 100,000 deaths later, the war between Russia and Ukraine could be coming to a close. Could be, I said, because we've been led to believe this once before. During the campaign, President Trump said he would end the war in a day. He's working to keep his word. He's somehow put together the makings of an arrangement to end the war between two sides who usually show no sign of compromise. Well, the problem for Ukraine is that eventually they'll run out of troops versus Russia, which has a much larger population and a willingness to keep sending men into that grinder. Well, Ukraine's advantage is that they have been fighting with superior American-made weapons. At this point, while neither side will openly admit it, people in both countries are worn out. So many fathers, brothers, and sons already killed or missing on both sides. So much destruction in both countries. Families' lives have been changed for the worse and forever. And history shows us that wars are a challenge to get into, but they're even harder to end. Well, military men know this, and so do politicians. Well, tonight we have a man who has served as both. Colonel Allen West was a lieutenant colonel in the Army and a Republican congressman in Florida as well. He served more than 20 years with deployments in Afghanistan and Iraq. He came away with a Meritorious Service Medal and a Bronze Star. In government, he served on the House Armed Services Committee. Well, tonight, he's our special guest. Welcome back to our show, Colonel West.
Sir, it's such a pleasure being with you, Pastor Jackson.
Well, I won't ask you to project the future because the president of Ukraine has demonstrated that he has a habit of changing his mind. But following the animated exchange he had in the Oval Office with President Trump, we're now told that Zelensky sent a private letter to the president, which has been called a very positive first step. We don't know if he apologized, but according to Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, there's an effort now to set up another meeting between the U.S. and Zelensky, which may take place in a third-party country. Do you think he's getting closer to negotiating some sort of a settlement?
Without a doubt, I think that he realizes the folly of his performance and his belligerence in the Oval Office last week. And also that was the third opportunity that he had to sign this mineral rights agreement. He had that opportunity to do so with the Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, in Ukraine. He had another opportunity at the Munich Security Conference in Munich, Germany, and then, of course, in the White House. But I think that Vladimir Zelensky has to learn that this is a different president. He's not just going to show up and stomp his foot like some temperamental child and get another check to go back and continue on in this war that has become just a great stalemate. And so Donald Trump wants to have peace. Donald Trump wants to resolve it. And what he presented to him with this mineral rights agreement was a security agreement. When you get the United States of America to make an economic investment, and that comes as a security agreement as well, because businesses are going to come in. It's great for the United States. It's great for the people of Ukraine. And it really does put Vladimir Putin on his heels, because who wants to come in and the next thing you know, potentially try to invade a portion of a country where you have American interests there, which will bring about the Article 5 support to a place called Ukraine because of an attack against American citizens. But this was a great deal. I think Zelensky realizes that he's going to sign it.
Well, there may have been some other interference directed towards Zelensky. There have been reports that some Democrats and even former Biden and Obama people told Zelensky to push back on Trump when they met. The reports said they coached him to deliberately take on President Trump and J.D. Vance in front of the cameras. Well, he certainly did that. Has it come to that sort of behavior from the other party?
Yeah, absolutely right. I think that the Obama-Biden cabal, and let's be very honest, that Vladimir Putin made his incursions into Ukraine during the Obama-Biden presidency and then the Biden-Harris presidency. We did not see that during the 4 years of Trump, and I don't think we'll see him continuing to try to do something like that now. So the progressive socialist left wants Donald Trump to fail in every way, shape, form, and fashion, and to include as a foreign policy adventure. And who would not want to see peace happen? I guess that if you hate Donald Trump so much, you would rather see more Ukrainian men and Russian men and other civilians lose their lives unnecessarily. So Vladimir Zelensky needs to know that next time you come to Washington, D.C., don't stop off and meet with Obama acolytes or Biden acolytes. Go right to the President of the United States of America. That happens to be Donald J. Trump.
Well, it's not a simple issue. A lot of Americans want to know if this deal tilts in favor of Putin. What's your opinion?
I don't think it tilts in favor of Putin. I think that right now, if you understand the two things are so important in leveraging conflict across the country, number one is energy resources, and it's also mineral rights resources. One of the reasons why China is all over the world are going after, key minerals and things of that nature. And we end up having to go into a position of going to China to buy some of these raw materials and minerals. We need to be able to have access ourselves. That was a big thing about the United States departing, and now you see China trying to make its way into Afghanistan. The other thing is that now with President Trump in the White House, we can get back to exporting our energy resources, especially our vast liquefied natural gas resources, and that cuts off the pipeline that Vladimir Putin is shipping into Europe. And so, again, that affects him economically just the same as we should restore those sanctions against Iran so that they cannot share their energy resources with China or even with Russia. So those are the two things. You don't have to always go and look for the solution. But when we start to leverage our economic power, our energy power, and also, making sure that we can secure these mineral rights instead of our geopolitical foes, I think that's how you gain the upper hand. That's how you gain leverage.
Well, one thing President Trump made clear for years now, our European allies need to pay their fair share to make this work. Right now, all of Europe has only paid about the same amount as the U.S. alone. Listen to the president's words across several years.
NATO members must finally contribute their fair share and meet their financial obligations. But 23 of the 28 member nations are still not paying what they should be paying. The United States should pay its fair share, not everybody else's fair share.
No, fair enough.
I believe the United States was paying 90% of NATO.
Europe has sadly spent more money buying Russian oil and gas than they have spent on defending Ukraine.
Well, Colonel West, that sure doesn't seem fair at all given their proximity to Russia. Do you agree with the president?
No, absolutely, I agree with him. And how interesting it was that upon the rejection from President Trump, Vladimir Zelensky went to the United Kingdom, went to London to get some additional money. But Europe is not in the position to have the economic legs or the military legs to be able to support Zelensky in Ukraine. And I think that the people of Ukraine know that, the government in Ukraine know that, and I think that Mr. Zelensky has come to that realization as well. And the other thing that's so interesting to me is why would the Democrats support someone that he has suspended elections, he has instituted martial law? I thought that they were the champions of democracy. So again, we want to see peace. We want to see some restoration of normality in the Ukraine, but also we want to make sure that that security blanket is there. Europe cannot do it. The United States of America can. And we need to see other people step up to the plate as well. Vladimir Putin is a dictator. We've seen the same old thing happen with him in terms of Moldova, in terms of Georgia, and now in Ukraine. The only thing he understands is strength and might and resolve, and that's what he has, and that's what he will see with Donald Trump.
Well, let's take a short break. You can write me an email about this discussion we're having with Colonel West, and we'll work them into our next few shows. We'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback. We'll be right back. We're back now with Colonel Allen West. He's a military man of more than 20 years and a former congressman as well. Well, you live in Texas now, and there's been a war of sorts on our border there. But from all accounts, the massive influx of illegal migrants, including criminals let out of foreign prisoners, it's pretty much stopped flooding into Texas. Well, I realize it's going to take years to fix, but are things any better yet on the ground?
They are absolutely better, Pastor Jackson. And I think one of the great money lines from President Trump's address to the joint session of Congress was when he said that we did not need new legislation. We just needed a new president. We have the laws on the books. We just needed to have a president that was committed to, defending and supporting those laws and on ICE to do what they were supposed to do and making sure that we secure that border and send the message that you're not going to be able to stay in the United States of America. We have seen border encounters go from 10,000, 11,000, 12,000 a day during the Biden administration to record lows, even lower than the previous Trump administration, a couple of hundred a day. And politically, we saw 12 or 14 border counties here in the state of Texas go for President Trump because they want to have safety, they want to have security. It's so important that we recognize that these cartels are transnational narco-criminal terrorist organizations, and we need to be able to thwart their efforts to undermine the security of the United States of America, get back operational control of our border, but also we need to clean up the criminal illegal immigrants that we have and those that pose a domestic and national security threat in this country. We should not have members of a Venezuelan criminal gang running around armed in the country, threatening the lives and the livelihood of Americans.
Well, Tom Homan and Kristi Noem are doing a great job rounding up whoever they can find. But now the Secretary of Defense is sending troops to help secure the border as well. They're only going to go so far without more support from Washington. Tom Homan outlined the specifics. Listen to what he said.
We got illegal crossings down 97%, but we need more money to make that permanent, get it down to 100%, have zero gotaways. We got a massive deportation operation we got to run. We need more beds. We need more airplane flights. We need more officers. And look, we got 300,000 missing children we got to find. So we need money to get all these things done for the president.
Well, I know you served in Congress. Do you think Congress will step up and provide what's needed?
They have to. This is Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution. It's known as the Guarantee Clause. The federal government is supposed to guarantee to every state in the union to protect them from invasion. And they did not do so for the 4 years of the Biden-Harris administration. And in the 45 days of the Trump administration, we've already seen that turn around. But let me talk about this issue of using military troops on our border. We send our troops all over the world, securing other borders of other countries. It's so important that we understand that we do that right here against this terrorist organization and terrorists that are, being transported by these cartels into our country. You hear a lot of people talk about Del Rio, Eagle Pass, all along Brownsville, what have you, but you don't really hear a lot of folks talk about the Big Bend sector or the Van Horn sector, which is far West Texas and down in that mountainous region. That's where you have the people coming across that don't want to be detected. They don't want to be caught. Those are the nefarious actors. And that's why it's so important that we have our military and the military resources that they have out there to complement our Border Patrol agents who don't have that level of sophistication and intelligence gathering, and also the level of aerial surveillance, so that we can make sure that we are tracking these people that are coming into this country.
Well, another deeply embedded problem that was built up over the Biden years is the fentanyl labs run by the thousands of Chinese who crossed into our country illegally. They apparently work with the Mexican drug cartels and manufacture the poison pills and look-alike drugs. More than 70,000 Americans die each year when they swallow these synthetic opioids. Do you know if the authorities are having any luck finding and breaking up some of these Chinese labs?
Well, that's going to take cooperation with the country known as Mexico. Hopefully they will do that, or else we may get to the point where we have to do cross-border operations. We may not ask for the permission of Mexico. You think about it, Pastor Jackson, during the Biden-Harris administration, 250,000 Americans, as you just articulated, lost their lives due to fentanyl poisoning. It's a chemical attack against the American people. Our number one geopolitical foe, China, sends it over to the transnational criminal terrorists known as the cartels, and then they burn it across the border. That 250,000 number in 4 years is greater than the number that we lost in Korea and Vietnam wars combined. That tells you that this is a war being enacted against the American people. And so I think that there is going to come a point, and that's one of the reasons why President Trump is trying to use the economic leverage tool of tariffs to get Mexico and Canada to step up and do more to protect our people from this fentanyl poisoning. And if not, well, yes, I think that there comes a time when our special operators may have to go across border and take down these fentanyl facilities.
Well, before we go, it's been quite noticeable to see how the Chinese are flexing their military muscles in and around Southeast Asia, specifically around Taiwan. But with President Trump back in the driver's seat, do you think they may hold off on any aggressive moves while he's in power?
Yes, I think so. I think you'll see a return to how it was in his previous administration. One of the big, again, diplomatic foreign policy exploits of President Trump is to go back and secure the Panama Canal. Panama Canal should not be in the hands of the Chinese. The Panama Canal was built for a national security purpose of us being able to transition our Atlantic and Pacific fleets into those respective ocean theaters of operation. We had to do that after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. So we don't want China controlling that very important strategic, economic, and military crossing point. And I think that that sends a message, and that the president of Panama has said that he probably will not renew the Belt and Road policy with China going forward. So again, it's about peace through strength. That was Ronald Reagan's maxim and mantra. Donald Trump definitely embodies that.
Well, Colonel West, Congressman West, it's a pleasure to have you join us again. Your straightforward wisdom is always a treat to hear. Hope you'll come back again soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Pastor Jackson. God be with you.
When I come back, some thoughts of my own on how we move forward. There is hope. You know, we've just published a new book called Angels, Demons, and You. So I guess my mind has been a bit on that topic. There's a verse in Hebrews that says that we should be aware that sometimes we have entertained angels and we haven't been aware of it. Well, I have a habit at the end of every service. I stand at the altar and I interact with the people. I pray for some, I'll listen to others until everybody's done, or everybody that has something to say has had an opportunity to visit. Well, this past weekend I had an experience. In the midst of that line of people, a man came up, he introduced himself, he just told me his first name. He said it was Benjamin. He had a bit of an accent. And he simply said, Pastor, we need to pray that the war will end in Ukraine. He said, I'm a pastor there. Will you pray with me? And we stopped and had a prayer. That was all he said, and then he slipped away, and there were people in line, and I kind of lost it in the moment. But after the fact, I was reflecting on it. It was a very unusual conversation, highly unusual that someone would come to me from another country, not tell me how they got here, what their connection was, how we might help them in some way. None of those things were a part of that conversation. He simply said, we need to pray that the war in Ukraine will end. Now, he didn't hand me a business card that said I'm an angel, but there were enough characteristics around that were unique enough. It got my attention. I've been praying every day since then that that war in Ukraine will end. And I want to hand that assignment to you. I'm certainly not an angel, but we can join together in praying that the war and destruction will end, and I believe that'll be good for all involved. If we'll do that, I truly believe there are more reasons for hope than despair. Well, that's my message for tonight. And after a short break, we're going to start looking at your messages. We got emails. Thank you for taking the time to send your emails, your thoughts and opinions. They're important. Gladys emailed, I have a question. Why is there so much pushback regarding what Elon Musk is doing with the charge he's been given in Doge? The man's not charging us, the citizens, a dime, and he's putting all of himself into this mission that's uncovering so much waste, fraud, and abuse. Gladys, I think that is a very good question, and I don't know the answer entirely. I suspect a part of the answer is so many of the people in D.C. and elsewhere have had their snouts in the trough that they don't even want anybody turning off the flow. I pray he's successful. Phyllis emailed, I'm a retired federal employee, and contrary to what is said, some of us worked hard. However, the current conclusion about federal workers may have some validity. I do recall one occasion when the computers were being replaced by new ones, I inquired about purchasing one of the older ones. My request was refused, but I learned after that all the older machines were beaten to bits with a sledgehammer and thrown into the garbage. Keep up the good work at informing the public. Well, Phyllis, I have no doubt that there are employees in the federal government that work very hard. Your computer comment intrigues me. There have been many occasions when I wanted to take a sledgehammer and beat my computer to bits, and it had nothing to do with saving cost. It had a lot more to do with my incompetence. I think we should also pray and expect that our government employees work hard and be compensated fairly for what they do. If we'll come back to that, it'll be a better place for all of us. Thank you all for watching. If you ever missed the show, remind you can go to our YouTube channel. Every evening, the episodes are posted there. You can see them and share them. If you go, be sure you subscribe and you like it. That'll help more people see the program. Make sure you send your emails and comments to alanjacksonnow.com. From all of us here in Nashville, thank you for joining us tonight, and have a wonderful evening.